The following program is brought to you by The Collector's Cave. Visit www.thecollectorscave.com for all your sports memorabilia needs, and keep on an eye for their future public signings and public meet and greets with your favorite Chicago sports athletes. Visit www.thecollectorscave.com for all your sports memorabilia needs.
Hey, this is David Kaplan from ESPN 1000, the Cap and J Hood Morning Show, and NBC Sports Chicago. Do what I do. Watch Braggs in the Stands with Greg Braggs and Jake. Must watch television. Take that.
Back on the road, ladies and gentlemen. Come join us at Catch Table and Tap in Merrillville, Indiana. Let's go. The Bears, they started this new tradition last year where they celebrate their wins the correct way.
Bottle and Sylvie, ESPN 1000, don't miss it.
I know what you mean.
It's like their own Philly.
Okay. Okay, I think what it is.
We shouldn't be showing this. Am I crazy?
Yogi!
What a great sign that is. What have I told you? 17 minutes of rain would wash away 108 years of drought.
Do you see this team growing into the team that you were in 2005?
Great practice, everybody.
You are ridiculous.
What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? We are back on the road once again, back-to-back weeks. Last week it was Thomas Jones at Sovereign in Plainfield, Indiana. And this week we are back at Catch Table and Tap in Merrillville, Indiana, where we did our first ever live show with the great Jim McMahon. Today, as a matter of fact, a huge signing put together for the Collector's Cave over here at Catch Table and Tap. We've got Miggy Montero and Aramis Ramirez. And if you are in the area, this is a canvas signing two of the all-time great Cubs. I mean, you talk about Miggy Montero having two of the biggest hits in Chicago Cubs history for the 2016 World Champion Chicago Cubs. And then, of course, Aramis Ramirez, one of my personal favorite Cubs of all time and one of the all-time great third basemen for the Chicago Cubs. Miggy Montero will be here from 12 to 1:30 Central, and then Aramis Ramirez will follow him up from 2 to 3:30. There are tickets still available. You can come here and get the tickets firsthand. We got Mike, of course, that runs the Collector's Cave. He's here running around doing his thing, getting everything set up. So you are not late. If you want to come out here, you are still have the opportunity to meet two of the greatest Cubs to ever put on the uniform. So that's what we're doing here today. We're going to set the table here at Catch Table and Tap, have some fun, talk a little Chicago Cubs, talk to some of the all-time great Chicago Cubs fans that show their loyalty and passion to this team every day in the stands, because that's what we're all about, here at Bragg's in the Stands. So, without further ado, we're going to bring on our guy, Paul. You know him as Crawly, does a lot of great work for Chicago Cubs Nation and Cubs Twitter and Cubs social media all across the board. Crawly's Clubhouse and everything in between. Somebody that I truly, identify with as a fan in the stands. I'll take my headset off because we don't really need it. Although, I might keep it on just in case we have any technical difficulties. We don't really need it, though, because I'm not playing too much audio stuff. But how we doing today, Crawly?
Doing good. It's Saturday. I got a Yingling in my hand, and we're about to meet some good Cubs players. Some of my favorites, two of my favorites, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll definitely get into that. You beat me here today. That just shows your loyalty and passion to the Chicago Cubs. First in line here at Catch Table and Tap.
I got no Cubs con, so I got to be first in line somewhere.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about in this conversation. You just mentioned it. No Cubs convention 2 years in a row, or is this the third year in a row now?
This is 2 years in a row. The last one was 2020. That was January, and then everything shut down March.
Right. So, that's a huge event for Chicago Cubs fans. I've been there many times. One time I got to sit down and take shots at Jameson with Fergie Jenkins while we watch NFL playoff football. You get to have experiences that, you typically don't get to have as a fan. And that was one of my favorites, obviously. And then the 2016 Cubs going there that winter and celebrating that, So how important is it for these kind of events to someone like you, where you don't get to have that Cubs convention? And this is kind of the dabble that you get, although not current players, but, players nonetheless.
Right. For me, it's a fix. You know what I mean? I got to get my Cubs fix on somehow. I've been to over 20 straight Cubs conventions. So to, kind of lose that opportunity, that's hard, man. To me, it's more important than my birthday, more important than Christmas. I'm being serious. I'd rather I do more with that than anything. It's like my day of the year. Anyone that knows me knows CubsCon's kind of my jam. But I know a lot about CubsCon, and unfortunately, it takes a lot of planning. It's not something you do overnight. I know people want to get into conspiracy theories and, the Ricketts don't want to face anybody. They haven't wanted to face anybody since they canceled the Family Forum, so it ain't that. Okay, they know that there's been CubCons where no one's been there. The Ricketts aren't doing anything where they talk to fans or take questions anymore. It had nothing to do with that. Just so everybody knows, when you do CubsCon, you book the hotel a year in advance.
Right.
And you're not booking one hotel, you're booking two hotels. That's the Lowe's and that's the Sheridan.
And that's just for the players and special attendees, correct?
Well, that's the players and the special attendees are more in the Lowe's, and then the lowly people go to the Sheridan. But you have to book both of those. You have to book all the rooms a year in advance. So go back 1 year, Delta variant's coming. That was one of the worst times of the pandemic, was 1 year ago around this time.
Right.
And so there's a lot of work that comes in. You have to get the attendees to confirm they're coming. You have to book the hotel. You have to get the flights. You have to start printing. You have to get the employees on the books to work it, because those are all Cubs employees. And so there was just honestly, I understand why people are frustrated and may think conspiracy. The Cubs should have just said right away in April or May, we're not doing it, because they knew then they weren't doing it.
Sure.
But it's frustrating. But these type of events coming here, the Collector's Cave does a lot of good stuff. You guys know I'll be at Club 400. We got a Patrick Wisdom event coming up.
Yep.
Chicago Sports Spectacular next weekend.
That's right.
That's going to be a lot. Joe Madden will be there.
Yep.
How exciting is that? Ben Zobrist, haven't seen him in a while since some of his issues. So it'll be a fun time. So you just, Greg, I don't know how you have enough hours in the day. Cubs, Bulls, Hawks. I'm just a Cub guy, man. If I did any more, I think my wife would leave me.
Yeah.
She's getting close with all the bobbleheads and stuff that I got. But, for me, there's baseball season, and then there's waiting for baseball season. So these type of events kind of keep me going. So I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, well, we're happy to have you. And, I was at the Purdue basketball game last night in the stands with my lovely wife. Purdue won a big game. And, it's easy. I know some friends that are football, Bears only, football only. I know people like you that are Cubs only, baseball only. I tend to roll over into each sport. It makes it easier that way. We've been through so many trials and tribulations and disappointments with our team. If you roll them over, then at least you have a shot at maybe one of your teams working out.
Right. Bears no good. Hawks, maybe they're turning it around, but you got the Bulls. So you
got the
something.
Bulls. Exactly. You go to the
something.
United Center, get in the stands, and you can feel good about yourself for a minute. And then, of course, my Boilermakers. I know nobody cares about that on this show, but they're number 7 in the country. So feeling good about them right now. But, like you mentioned, a lot of different opportunities for fans to still see players. Patrick Wisdom, as you mentioned, at
Club 400.
Club 400. I would love to go. I've never had the opportunity to go there, but it looks like every event that Club 400 puts on is a hell of a time.
Yeah, Club 400 is run by Stuart Mittvicker. He has the world's greatest Cubs cave, and nobody's even second. So I'll put it up to anyone. He was on, if you want to see it, it's on Netflix, episode 1, season 1, on a show called Amazing Interiors. But it is such a fun event because you actually get to kind of hang a little bit. A lot of these events, it's just kind of like a cattle call. You go through, you get your autograph. Here, there's Q&As, pictures. You get to talk to the guys. The Wisdom one, we sold out quick. So that's what I always tell people is these type of events, you got to make sure you get there, get your ticket, and once you go, you never want to leave.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And that's kind of what the Collector's Cave here is trying to do in a way, because like you mentioned, it's like a cattle call for a lot of these autograph signings, like next week at the Chicago Spectacular. But, it's always nice when an organization like Club 400 or Collector's Cave tries to put on an event and have, a pod, and nobody wants to listen to silly old brags, but to try to add to the element of the event and, meet the players, take a picture with them, actually have a, intimate moment and share along in the fun with other, fans of that sport, whatever you're coming to see. And I know Club 400 does a hell of a job. I've seen some cool stuff with Ryan Dempster and these guys.
Right. We're trying to raise $1 million for charity, and we're about at like 600,000. So hopefully within the next year or two, we hit our goal, and 1 million for Cub fans needs. It's Cub fans helping Cub fans. I can't think of a better cause.
Man, and that's what makes, Chicago sports fans special, because I see this in all different teams, but especially the Chicago Cubs, you really just start to saw that groundswell of, community. And that's something, I a lot of people know me from my Bears, stuff. And the community is so strong. Everybody kind of supports each other. And that's rare to see, when everybody's kind of doing their different hustle and competing. I notice with Cubs Twitter, for the most part, everyone kind of sticks together and supports each other.
Yeah, it's you run each other in the stands. Social media night, which we didn't have again the last couple of years, is the funny thing is I've always been in love with the Cubs as a Cubs team and Club 400 and CubsCon and all these different events that we're talking about. But what I've really come to, when I first started doing it, it was about like the memorabilia, and then it was about meeting the players. But now all of a sudden it's kind of come down to the friends that you make along the way. It sounds cheesy,
right?
But like we got to know each other. You know what I mean? Luis Medina or Danny Rocket or all these guys that you just kind of come with. Danny's become a really close friend. Stu McVicker's one of my best friends now. These are all people that you just meet along your journey, and we all share our same sick addiction. So let's just do it together.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's Danny Rocket at the bottom of the screen, and then of course Brett from Bleacher Nation. Who are the other gentlemen here?
We got a lot of people. So there's me on the far left. This was on John Baker Day, celebrating, and this was another charitable event celebrating the day John Baker pitched and scored the winning run. It's me to the left. It's Evan Altman next to me from Cubs Insider. There's Corey from IVNV. Corey Freeman, yeah. No, not Corey Freeman.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Boy, my mind's blanking now. But Corey from IVNV, which was the longest running podcast forever. You see Brett Taylor making the goofy thumbs up right there. Danny Rocket.
He's so photogenic, Brett Taylor.
That's just Brett. And the guy to the far right is a really cool guy. If you don't follow him on Twitter, I would. Matt Kammerer. Matt made a thing. He's an absolutely phenomenal artist. And some Cubs players have actually commissioned him to do artwork because he does this cool series of the players with the background of the Chicago map.
Okay.
So it's a really cool thing. I got a few of his pieces. I got a Ernie, I got a Ron Santo, and I got an Ed Vedder. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Everybody kind of does their different thing, has their different hustles, and everyone tries to give back in different ways. And I respect that because that's what I pride myself at, on in Brags and Stands is the charitable efforts. I know you probably say the same thing, not trying to speak for you, but like we're lucky. We get to go to games a lot more than the average fan. I certainly at times, like when somebody says, "Oh, this is my first game of my life," I took my buddy Trey Tunes last year. I kind of feel guilty because I take it for granted sometimes for how much I get to go. And so for me with this platform, I just try to give back. So I respect the hell out of you guys doing the same thing.
Right. We're very blessed. And I've been a season ticket holder over 20 years. And when people tell me it's my first game, I go out of my way to try to show them around. I say, hey, if you want to, I can walk you around the stadium. I can take you to some
Crawly
of the hot
experience.
The Crawly experience around Wrigley, man. I'll take you to where I'll take you to places you may not know. We'll do a Chicago handshake, an old style in a Malore, and we'll have a lot of fun. But that's the key. It's just being a Cub fan. I've been through good. I've been through the bad. It's just about having fun and just enjoyable,
That's great. People call it the Brags experience when they come with me to a Bears game because I do it a little different than your normal Bears tailgate and go because I like to go down in the tunnel where the Bears come out, and I know all the nooks and crannies like you do at Wrigley Field, and maybe one day I'll have to join you for the Crawly experience in case I'm missing anything at historic Wrigley Field.
Well, I want to invite you, Greg, and your fans on Saturday. I want to say it's December 11th. We are doing Cubs caroling down at Wrigley Field. And if you have never been, we will start at G-Man Tavern. And we come up with Cubs carols. Danny Rocket comes up with 99% of them. And so they're Cubs carols sung to your favorite Christmas songs. And we go from bar to bar singing to the masses. And so it's a lot of fun. If you've never been there, I totally recommend doing some Cubs caroling. It's, like I said, December 11th on a Saturday. We'll give you printed sheets. If you don't sing real well, don't worry. It's like Harry Carey. Just be real loud and have fun. And by the time it's done, we'll start at D-Man. We'll head all the way down Clark, and then we'll end up at Nisei Lounge, the oldest bar in Wrigley. And that's when the Malore gets poured and the fun starts.
Yeah, that's great. G-Man Tavern, I've been there for the Bleacher Bum Band, which Danny Rocket and Bleacher Jeff, they're in it. They put on a great show.
Jeff, Guy Sirius, all those guys. Yeah, their album's great. You can get it on all the streaming services. Absolutely fun. G-Man's a great place to go. And let's say you just want to come for half the caroling experience. The 45s, Matt Spiegel and Len Casper's band is playing that night at G-Man Tavern. So there's tickets available for that.
Wow. Yeah. And I didn't realize with Nisei Lounge, I know you guys talk about that a lot, and I've never ventured my way over there. I didn't realize it was the oldest bar in Wrigleyville.
So look, there's been, everybody knows Cubby Bear and Sluggers, blah, 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 blah. No, and then there's the newer bars like Brick House and other places like that. But when you're talking about Nisei, that's old school. So it is the oldest bar there, and it's one of those places that if you're in the know, that's where you kind of end up. It's kind of one of those unhidden, places that people go, and I'm blabbing it to all your, but come on over and join that.
I love it.
These
are the secrets we need to know here.
They have beer patios there. They are famous for their Malort concoctions. For Halloween, they had Malort candy corn. I forget what they're working on for Thanksgiving, but there's always something. Candy cane Malort. Bleacher Jeff is a bartender there.
Yep.
And so if you go down if you go down Sheffield, so you're at the corner of Clark and Sheffield and you take a right. Tiny little hole in the wall, but that's where a lot of the employees that work at Wrigley, they're done, they clock out, that's where they go.
There you go, and get a shot of Malort. I don't know.
I'm
a whiskey guy, so Malort kind of freaks me out. I don't venture too far off the whiskey.
Have you been to my guy's place, Mordecai's Whiskey Bar?
I have stepped in Mordecai's before. I'm very selective in my drinking. It's mostly Crown, mostly Jack. Everybody gives me crap because I'm still a Jack guy. Mostly Crown, mostly Jack, for the most part. But I do venture off the beaten path every once in a while.
I would recommend. Obviously, there's times where with your boys and you're going to be doing some crazy shit, but take your lovely wife one day and take her to like a nice meal at Mordecai's. Maybe go to a day game and then catch Mordecai's afterwards, and they'll set you up with some of the best whiskey you could have.
I like it. Another thing you mentioned here with Club 400 is their cave. They're infamous for their man cave, but you actually just put together your man cave, which everyone's been really excited to see. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the thought process and putting this together, and how far you've come along since this picture.
All right. So people don't know this. They just think I'm a Cub fan. I am not Ronnie Woo Woo. I actually have a job. But I am a history teacher, and I combine my love of the Cubs with history. So what's going to end up happening is this is going to kind of be like a museum dedicated from 1945 and finishing up with 2016. It's telling the story of that journey from the Cubs' last World Series to their to winning finally the World Series. And so I've been collecting for 35 years. Every kind of knickknack you could. If it said Cub on it, I wouldn't throw it away. I still have like 1984 giant pins that I still have. So what you see here is about a 15-foot bar, 2 TVs. That is a piece that lights up that's absolutely amazing. It's made by Bill Watts from Fly the Wood, a great follow, and he does all sorts of different logos.
Yeah.
You want a Boilermaker logo, he'll make that, and it lights up behind and it glows. It's amazing. If you look at that back corner right there, I am filling that up currently with bobbleheads. I'm about 3/4 full, and I'm scared I may have to get rid of some of my babies, but that's like getting rid of a child. I don't know which one to do. So I'm going to have a gallery of signed pictures when you come down. And then there's a huge wall that's going to be happening that's going to be the greatest Cubs players from 1945 to 2016 to the 2000s. There's going to be a World Series wall that has all my personal memorabilia from the World Series. There's going to be a wall of shame because there has been some bad moments. I have autographed memorabilia from the Bartman game, from the Black Cat game. I have a signed photograph from Lee Elia from the famous rant. There's going to be an art wall where I have a lot of my favorite Cubs artists. That's going to be Matt Caesar, who did a nice piece. It's going to be Matt Kammer, who I talked about, Dan St. Clair. Lauren Taylor is a very famous MLB artist. So you're going to see a lot of John Hanley, who's actually done a lot of art for the Cubs organization. So there's going to be a lot of art down there. And then just all sorts of random stuff that I've collected through pennants from 1945 till 2016. So a lot of great stuff that we're going to have there.
That's going to be incredible to see. I certainly would love to come and document it and do maybe a live show where we take people around and see it once the finished product has finally come, and it probably will never be finished. It'll always be evolving to a sense, when you're a memorabilia collector, that always is free flowing in its evolution.
People have been telling me that, but I'm out of space. So unless I win the lotto, maybe I rotate some things.
Knock a wall down, build another room.
There's no more walls. There's no more nothing. And so, I don't know what's going to happen, but I like the fact that it's a story. It's not just memorabilia. Yeah. It's a story. And so my dad was born in 1946, 1 year after the Cubs last were to World Series against the Detroit Tigers. And that was the famous curse of the Billy Goat, all that bullshit. And so it's kind of a story too about the journey of me and my dad, of the journey that we made, his life, and then later on my life, and then our life together of sharing this journey with the Cubs. And so, like I said, it's just that history buff in me that kind of really, it's not really, I know it sounds like a lot of Cubs memorabilia, but there's a story behind everything you see down there.
I like that. Being a history teacher, you take pride in the history. And, Mark Silverman, Sylvie from Waddle and Sylvie, he always says the journey is more fun than the destination. And I, as a fan, relate to that. And it seems like you do as well. I have a Cubs memorabilia piece. One of my favorite pieces I have is this. It's like a drawing collage. It's about this big. And it has all the different failed moments of the Cubs, from the Billy Goat to the Black Cat to the Bartman incident. And it's got a picture of like Kerry Wood and then Pryor pointing. And I went to Game 7 of the NLCS, and that was kind of my first moment of truly feeling failure, watching the Florida Marlins in 2003 celebrate on that Wrigley Field, pouring champagne and it. I've never seen a sadder moment. One thing that will always stick out to me is an old lady just bawling her eyes out, how important this means to us. And we all felt like we were going to win when Kerry Wood hit that Game 7 home run into the stands. And the house was shaking. One of the greatest moments I've ever witnessed as a Cub fan. But people would ask me, like, why do you have this piece of memorabilia? Because at the bottom it says cursed with a question mark. And I used to tell people, I go, when they win it, this will mean a lot to me, because you to truly enjoy the destination, you have to go through the journey.
And that's what makes a fan. I hear a lot of people being like, oh, don't gatekeep Cub fandom. I don't gatekeep Cub fandom. What I tell people is there's certain rules. No wave at Wrigley. Throw the opposing team home run ball back. No ties at Wrigley. There's certain rules that happen. I welcome anybody. But here's the thing. You stick with it. It's like family. You don't leave when shit gets rough.
Right.
And that's part of this. I was at every playoff game in 2003. The Bartman play happened right below my goddamn seats.
Right.
And I'll never forget in Game 7 being there and actually hearing it was so quiet. Think about this. You got 40-some thousand fans at Wrigley, and it was so quiet I could hear them celebrating on the field, like them cheering.
Yep.
And that stuck with me. Even to this day, like people are like, oh, well, 2016 happened. Even to this day, that one still kind of haunts me a little bit. I still forget sometimes. Yeah. Maybe I wake up in a cold sweat and forget. But, you talk about favorite pieces. And, for me, people always ask me, well, if there's a fire in your house, you got to save one piece. What do you save it? And I always tell people is that it has to do with what's happening today, is that I have the jersey that I wore for the ring bearer ceremony in 2016. And that, to me, is the piece that I cannot replace. It's one of one. There's not another one that exists, and I love that jersey more than anything.
And they put Crawly on the back.
No, they didn't.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
So,
it said champs, right?
No.
Okay.
So what ends up happening is 2017 CubsCon. I always ask the first question, first in line. I asked Crane Kenny. I said, hey, in 2005, the White Sox win it. And for the first 30,000 fans, they gave a replica World Series ring. You guys doing the same thing? And Crane Kenny looks at me and he says, no, Crawly, we're going to do something better. We are going to allow 20 fans to present the players with a ring. You have to make a 1-minute video telling us why you are deserving of this honor. And all of a sudden, all the news, the papers are clicking, and this is the big story. 20 fans, like Willy Wonka and the Golden fucking Ticket.
Right.
I'm expecting Tom Ricketts to come out in a top hat and do a somersault. And, so now I'm putting together a video. Why? well, how the hell in the 40 years am I going to put it in a minute?
To sum up your whole life as a Cub fan in 1 minute.
So I make this video.
I couldn't do it. I talk way too much for that.
Right. He's just editing this and that. So I'm making this video, and I think it's a great video. And if you remember that year, 2016, the year that they won it, the song that they came during their hype video where they would run out was Warriors by Imagine Dragons. So I put this video out 1 minute, and it has the song Warriors. And it is freaking, I got to say, it's my Spielberg moment. The video is absolutely amazing. I'll share it with you. Great video. But then I'm reading the rules. After I send it in, I read the rules. And it says no copyrighted music allowed. You'll be disqualified.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm like, holy shit. So I sit there and I redo the whole. I don't redo the whole thing. I change the song so it's some YouTube allowed.
Sure.
YouTube comes up with generic songs.
Right.
So I found something that sucked. Nowhere near as good, but the video was still cool. Send it in, and now every day, my buddy Danny Rocket, who I do a podcast with, he's an asshole sometimes. I love him to death.
He's the best.
He's messing with me. Every day he's like, Crawly, this video's better than yours. Crawly, this video's better than yours. But I'm sitting here and I'm watching these videos, and guess what song everybody has in their video?
Imagine Dragons?
Go Cubs Go.
Oh.
Every video after. I'm like, I don't think I have a chance, just because, I just kind of had a feeling that, they don't want Crawly because Crawly got, I thought they were going to go the other direction. I wanted it more than anything. I was scared shitless. And I got a call from a friend that nominated me and said, Crawly, Crawly, you got it. And so we had no idea who. We couldn't say anything, or otherwise they were going to not allow us to be part of the ceremony. And so that day they said, we're going to give you a jersey and a hat. And then so we sit there, and we're right behind the right field, that corner, that nook, where you could look in from the outside.
Right.
And there's 20 of us, and we had kind of met each other through doing media appearances and stuff like that. And they said, guys, you are going to find out right now who you're going to get.
Oh, wow.
And so there's a big jersey reveal, and you got your jersey.
Okay.
And so, this jersey reveal, it said ring bearer on the back.
That's right.
And the number of the player that you would be presenting to. And so mine said ring bearer 47, Miggy's number. And so I was like, everybody knew I loved Miggy. And I'm like, and I know the guys at this Cub Social. Miggy means a lot to me. I just loved who he was as a player. I loved what he brought to the team. And,
had two of the greatest hits in Chicago Cubs history.
Two of the greatest hits in Chicago Cubs history.
Grand Slam, Game 1.
Game 1.
And then the game-winning RBI in the
Game 7.
Game 7 of the World Series. If they don't get that insurance run, all hell breaks loose in extra innings.
So I sat there and, you talked about the Kerry Wood home run. I have been to many of the greatest moments in Wrigley history, and there's only 3 or 4 times, where I felt that the building was going to literally fall down from shaking. The old girl wasn't going to make it. The first time I remember feeling that was the Kerry Wood home run in Game 7.
Yep.
Building shaking, and I'm in the upper deck, and I'm like holding on like it's going to be the Titanic. It's going to fall down. I'm going to be trying to hold on, and people fall over me. The other time was Miggy's home run in Game 1 of the NLCS. And I actually wasn't in my seats that game. I was in the far right corner. I'm like trying to move forward, so in case it collapses, it don't collapse on me. I would say the David Bodie ultimate slam, I was there for that.
Yep.
And then clinching Game 6, I was there for that. Those are the moments that I remember literally the ground shaking below my feet.
Clinching Game 6 of the NLCS.
Yeah.
I was at that game with my mom, able to get some pretty affordable tickets for that night, taking down Kershaw. What a glorious moment. I will, no one will ever believe me, but I will say that I did start the Kershaw chanting.
Was that you?
That was me. I'm staking my claim to it because I was fired up that night. And I've never, in any of my experiences going to Chicago sports events, I've never felt more confidence and optimism than I had that night. Like normally we're on pins and needles the way they won in Game 7 of the World Series. It never comes easy in Chicago, but for whatever reason, the stars aligned that night. We're facing Kershaw. There's no reason it should have came easy, but the Cubs would not be denied that night, and it was just one of those magical moments. 27 up, 27 down, and it was just a perfect game all the way across the board.
So I'll tell you this. I will rank the top 3 games I've attended at Wrigley. Number 3, Game 5 of the World Series. Win or go home. But that was a nerve-wracking game.
I almost put Game 6 ahead of Game 5. I was also at Game 5.
That's Game 3. That's my third pick.
Okay. I thought you were going
Game
1
5
to
of the
3.
World Series.
Okay.
Number 2. Shit, I forgot number 2. Number 2. So Game 3. Oh, when they clinched against the Cardinals in 2015 NLDS. That was a special game.
Now, you put that over the 7 home runs game. Was it 7?
Yeah.
6 or 7?
6. I thought it was 6.
I lost track when Schwarber hit the freaking on top of the freaking scoreboard, and Dennis Eckersley goes, "What in the world?" That was another regret of mine. Was that I had an opportunity to buy a ticket for $200 to go to that game. Shit, as the college football is underway here at Catch 22 or Catch Table and Tap.
Crowd at Catch 22, man.
Yep, people. Well, it's a long day too. You got Miggy from 12 to 1:30. And then Aramis from 2 to 3:30. But back to the Cubs, I was so pissed when I didn't go to that game when they hit all those home runs, because I was like $20 a home run. I would have paid that for sure. But when you're a season ticket holder, so you get first dibs to go to these games. For me, I got to pick and choose my spots because it's cost some money. So I want to make sure the games I go to, they win. And I was lucky enough to be at Game 6 of the NLCS. And then also Game 5 of the World Series, because they only won 1 game at Wrigley Field in the World Series. The other 2 were losses, and those games were much more expensive. I was able to get a bleacher ticket to Game 5 of the World Series for $500 when the Game 3 tickets in the bleachers, same ticket, was going for $2,500. So, it's a little bit of a gamble in a game I have to play to get to these events, but I was certainly happy. So go ahead with your list.
So 3 was World Series Game 5. 2 was the clinching against the Cardinals in 2015. Number 1 game was Game 6 of the NLCS. From beginning to end. And you started the chant. Whatever happened, for whatever reason, I've never seen this before or since. Cub fans walked into that game confident.
Yep.
We were going to take it. And nothing was going to change it. Walked in, and from the moment Kershaw came on the field, the Kershaw chants, the crowd was electric, and there was a play where there was an error. I think Baez had 2 errors that game, and was it Tolles? I can't remember who was on first, but Hendricks picks him off.
Yep.
And at that moment, there was 0 doubt.
Right.
And the crowd was so electric, chanting Kershaw's name, and until he was absolutely a defeated
He was
man.
shell-shocked. And you're right, and this is what I always said, because the 2 hardest moments of my life were Game 7 of the NLCS, and then I was at the double doink for the Chicago Bears. And you want to talk about when you said something sticks out to you in that quietness of sadness and depression of Chicago sports moments in history? Those 2 are neck and neck when you talk about the silence amongst the crowd and then hearing the celebrating team on the field. Go ahead.
So you bring up the double doink, and I'm not a huge Bears fan like you are. I'm a Bears fan, but nothing like you. But I've done a lot of stuff on social media. I've done stuff with TV for Comcast Sportsnet and other things. I was appearing that night on CLTV. If you remember, CLTV had a sports feed live, and it was a show. And I was on to talk about the Bryce Harper and the offseason, that offseason for the Cubs, which ended up being a bust that offseason. That's when they got Brad Brock, and we thought we were going to either get
Harper and Bryant.
Harper, And then we have Brock, and what was that guy? He was awful. Brain's not working too early and too many beers. But
you need a few more than the brain
starts. What was the guy? He was an infielder. He starts with a D. Daniel Descalso.
Okay.
We got Descalso and Brock instead of Machado or Harper. And so I'm there talking with Josh Friedman from Sports Feed Live, but nobody – so this whole newsroom is shooting it. We're filming, but nobody's watching this. Everybody's watching the TVs like around this bar watching the game. And so I'm sitting there talking to Josh, and the Bears are marching down the field. Trubisky's marching them down there. And so, like, we're trying to talk Cubs, but, like, we're, like, looking at the TVs, like, trying to side-eye to see what's going on.
Right.
So we can hear the people in the background kind of, like, murmuring, getting excited. And so I finish my hit on the piece. And Josh Friedman, I can't remember his name, but he's a Sox social media presence guy.
Sure.
He's coming on after me. I get off during the commercial break. He comes on and gets mic'd up, and the double doink happens.
Oh, my God.
And the whole interview is an absolute shit show. It's hilarious.
Yeah, two of the worst moments in Chicago sports history between Bartman and the double doink. I mean, very similar moments for sure, although the Bears was a walk-off, you're going home, and the Cubs still had one more chance and then, of course, ultimately failed. But, to me, it was – that's what the reason I bring that up is because I'm a vibes guy, and everyone in the stadium when Cody Parkey lined up for that kick knew he was going to miss it. And to me, there was an element of that energy that caused it to go off two posts, because the post and the crossbar, because it's an energy thing in Chicago, and these players can feel that. It's so profound that you can cut the tension with a knife. And for whatever reason, in Game 6 of the NLCS, we've been through so many terrible moments. For whatever reason, that night in particular, because, of course, in the World Series, we had plenty of trials and tribulations. We went back to the normal way of Cubs winning or losing with tension and guts and glory, ultimate glory at least. But, it didn't come easy. But at Game 6, for whatever reason, it came easy that night. And that's why, for me, and I'm right there with you, par for the course on it, because it was, to me, the greatest Cubs game I will ever attend, because it was such a rare moment, like a Michael Jordan moment almost, that they were not going to lose that night.
Everybody that you bumped into was like, we're winning this game fucking tonight. We're taking Kershaw. It's done. Cubs are going. No doubt. Nobody had it. Like you said, sometimes like you walk in, there's just almost an air of apprehension. And that night, absolutely zero of that. I wish I could have had every fan that went to that game and invited them to every other postseason game that ever existed.
Yep.
And maybe we would have won multiple World Series. But going back to the ring bearer thing, we got our jersey and we go out. Now all of a sudden, we're sitting there and the tension's kind of building. We walk out of there, and I've been on Wrigley before. Being a season ticket holder, they let us kind of do things where they do season ticket holder day where you can run the bases and play catch on the field. Next Sunday, I just realized I can't go. They're going to let you throw the football around the field because it's all set up for football. Some of those perks of being a season ticket holder. But I've been on it before, no big deal. But I'd never been to Wrigley with a packed house, 40,000. So I come out, the gates swing open, and I walk out, and there's 40,000 fans, and it's a different experience.
You're like Henry Rowan Gardner.
So I'm sitting there, and I brought my mom, my dad, my kids, my wife, but everybody was kind of scattered. The Cubs gave me a ticket, so I brought my dad with me real close behind the visitors' dugout. My wife and son were in my seats, and my daughter and my mom were in by the left field foul pole. And so I come in and I'm walking and I'm doing this. I'm walking around and I'm doing this. Walk onto the field. We're number one. I'm just going like this, and then I'm pointing to people like, hey, like all the people I know, because I had my guys from Fowlers, Howlers. I had my right field crew. I had a lot of people, so I'm pointing. I'm waiting. So we do this ceremony, and it's really weird because we're sitting there, and you get to this. You're kind of stopped close to the dugout of the first base dugout, and right by the on-deck circle is the stack of rings. And then that's when I thought for the first time there was never a Cubs World Series ring. It never existed.
Right.
They won 07, 08, no rings at that time. So now all of a sudden my heart's like I'm not really like a nervousy kind of guy, but my heart's pounding. I'm like, holy shit, the ring's right there. And so we sit there, and the ceremony starts. Len's emceeing the thing, Len Casper. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I'm like, just whatever you do, don't trip. And so they call, they say, presenting to Miggy Montero, Paul, Crawly, Dzien. And they hand me the box, and I got to hold that box. It was like Indiana Jones, like holding this like precious thing. And I'm looking, and it was a black box with a clear top so you could see the ring. And I'm like staring at it, and someone's like, oh, and I'm like walking out because I was like staring at it. And so I saw Miggy, and then that's the picture that you have. I shake his hand, and I was able to say, "Hey, Miggy, we were good." I gave it to him, and like I was emotional because they had played a video where they gave the rings to Santo and Banks.
Right.
And I was already kind of just really emotional. And the fact that my dad got to be there, you know, he's still alive, don't worry. But my dad got to be there for that moment was real special. And on the field, so it's kind of lined up. You had the ownership on the left side, but the right side was Theo, Jed, Jason McLeod, Ryan Sandberg, Billy Williams. And I got to walk by those guys and wave, and I shook a couple hands. And it was probably one of the greatest moments of my life. And so the ceremony ends, and you just have like this like kind of like adrenaline rush that was happening. It's over. And so now we're walking back out the right field corner. And I'm back to now I got a smile ear to ear, and I'm going the "we're number one" thing and still pointing, "We're number one, we're number one." Well, what we hadn't realized is when we came out, there really wasn't anyone on the field.
Efforting some internet issues. Not sure what you're seeing on your side, but the internet jumped out for a second. Hopefully it's all back within function. I actually dropped the ball here today because I have footage of you getting the ring because I'm the video guy in the stands, right? And I was at that game with my mom. I mean, I could attempt to pull it up here because I have
it's good.
I mean, I'm quick with the trigger. I really can because I'm fast with it. The only question is I literally taped every single person that was coming out, but I do remember taking some screenshots while you were coming out because, you know, when you're doing the video. And I'll put myself backstage here, turn this down. Let me see how I can work my magic.
Now, you go ahead and do that. I'll just tell the folks, the people right now that
there you go.
As ring bearer,
Crawly's a pro. He works for he does the Sun Ranto show. He knows how to the gift of gab and installing for his
Sun Ranto
co-host.
show Thursdays at 7 p.m. If you're interested, you can follow us at Sun Ranto at Crawly's Cubs. But I will tell you that the cool thing about it is there were 20 of us that were chosen, and we have become very close friends. We still keep in communication, and so we hope that one day the Cubs will have us back out one more time to kind of, you know, we just had the 5-year anniversary, and unfortunately with COVID, there was restricted access to Wrigley. There's a lot of things you couldn't do that were normally done, but we're hoping sometime in the future they welcome us back and we can maybe kind of be maybe in the hacienda, the Ornitas Hacienda in left field or somewhere where we can kind of have some fun. But there, you made lifelong friends because you know that there are 20 people, and we were the only ones that can understand what we experienced that day. So we've done a couple other shows since then where they had a special about the reunion that we were on, and it was great. And the best thing about it is that for me, Miggy was the guy, like I said, I wanted to present to. From the "We Are Good" hashtag to the NLCS home run to the hit that gave the Cubs the World Series. I loved his attitude. I loved his spunk. And so he did come to Club 400. I got to, as a joke, I presented him with a shot like I presented him with the ring. And we got to kind of become close and share a lot of drinks and share a lot of fun. And he's a down-to-earth guy. He's a great guy. And he's a funny guy, no holds back.
Yep.
That's what I will tell you is that Miggy, that's why he got removed. No holds, no filter. And he tells a funny story. If you remember why Miggy was removed from the Cubs, it was because he called out Jake for not holding runners. Now, Miggy's arm was gone at this time. He couldn't throw anyone out anyway. But Jake was awful, always awful at holding on runners. Long, slow, deliberate delivery. And they must have stole 7 bases that day. And they asked Miggy, the press afterwards, the beat writers, why, what was the problem? And he said, Jake's got to do a better job of holding on the runners. And everyone's like, oh my God, he threw Jake under the bus. And afterwards, Miggy's like, dude, I didn't throw him under the bus. This is what fucking happened. And I know some people say keep it in-house, blah, blah. That's not Miggy. Miggy will tell you what is the problem. And again, Miggy isn't that great at throwing, but if you're going to take forever and rely on Miggy to throw a guy out, that's not going to happen. And so it was funny because Miggy tells the story that Theo calls him. And Theo calls him and says, hey, you can't do that. You threw your player on the bus. And Jake's going to be all upset. We're going to have to let you go. And Miggy says, yeah? He's like, Jake's right next to me. You want to talk to him? And Theo's like, he's right next to you? And Miggy's like, yeah. You want to talk to him? See if Jake's got a problem with it? Because Jake knows what the fuck was happening. And all of a sudden, Theo's like, no, well, Miggy, this is just an example. We're really sorry about it. So Miggy gets cut. But Miggy always tells a story. And I was with it. And so when he tells the story, he points to his wrist. He's got a Rolex on. And he goes, you know who gave me this fucking Rolex? Jake Arrieta.
Oh, that's I love that. That's a good story. I mean, some guys, they got to tell it like it is, and Miggy was certainly one of those guys. Wore his heart on his sleeve as a player, and it was unfortunate that he got villainized at the end of his tenure when they're winning a World Series just because he's speaking from his heart. The media is always asking for honesty. He gives you honesty, and then everyone wants to turn around on it. I mean, it wasn't, they won the World Series, so ultimately everyone was all happy.
That was 2017 when he said that. He did get in trouble with your guys on ESPN.
Exactly.
He wanted more playing time. But here's the thing. He's a guy that always wanted to play. And when he hit that grand slam, if you watch, you can see his grand slam on Marquee. They do a breakdown, which is one of my favorite sessions. He had to have cortisone shots in his back. He wasn't supposed to even freaking play in that game unless it was an absolute emergency. When he hit that grand slam, he could barely move. But he's a guy that always wanted to play. So that when they won the World Series, they do the parade and the rally, and he's drunk, and he calls into ESPN Radio 1000, and he basically said, Joe didn't play me enough. That's Miggy. He wants to play every game. He plays when he has, like I said, he had his back was, I think it was a herniated disc or something with his disc. Imagine trying to catch doing that.
Yes.
But that was him. He wanted to play. And when people ask me why the Cubs didn't win a World Series, more World Series, I got a couple theories, but there were a lot of guys that they lost. It's okay to have fun. Dexter Fowler's a fun guy.
Yep.
Miggy Montero's Dexter Fowler's a fun guy. Anthony Rizzo's a fun guy. Chris Bryant's a fun guy that tickles Starlin Castro during a fight. Those guys are fun.
Right.
But sometimes you need the guys with the edge, the badass, somebody that has to call you out and say what's right and what's wrong. And I think between after 2016, 2017, 2018, they lose a lot of those guys. Those guys that say, you know what? Get your shit together. You know what? Obviously, Ross was another one of those guys that retired. Get your shit together, guys. I think they lost
because
a
you
lot
can
of
remember
leadership.
even in the World Series with Ross, with Rizzo's like quoting Anchorman during the World Series, and he's always a guy that's trying to make light of the moment. And Ross is like, lock in, and I think sometimes even a guy like Rizzo, as great as he is, needs that little kick in the ass from a guy like David Ross. I mean, that's how you push each other as competitors.
And people have always said, oh, put a C. I know Dom's always said, put a C on him. Rizzo was never, in my mind, captain materials. Neither was Sammy Sosa, if we're going to be honest. But a captain is somebody that everybody respects and everybody listens to. And when this guy says something, people listen.
Right.
And I think that's why Ross was so missed and respected. That's why Miggy was so.
Even a guy like Jason Hayward, with all his struggles, when he talks, it's profound because he doesn't talk that much.
You couldn't have had a worse hitter in 2016 than Jason Hayward. But guess what? You could have easily said, why am I listening to this guy in the weight room in Cleveland? This guy's not even freaking doing shit. He's hurting our team. But you know what? To a T. Everything that he said, they listened to.
Right.
And so there are certain people that are true leaders, and just because you're a great player or just because you're a lovable player or just because you're the face of the franchise, that's not a captain.
Right.
Okay, you have to bring more to the table than just that. And so that to me is losing Miggy. I always say to myself, Miggy, Lackey was another guy. Lackey won a lot of fun. But Lackey would bark at you. Lackey would get it. Did you ever hear the David Ross story of all of a sudden when people kind of realized he was a leader?
No.
Okay, let me tell this story. Let me have a sip here.
I love it.
So David Ross is in his first spring training. Of course, everyone's like, well, Lester wanted his own personal catcher. So they're in spring training. And Lester, obviously, is the big free agent signing. Ross is a veteran journeyman catcher. And they're doing drills in Mesa. And guess who's lollygagging? Starlin Castro.
Okay.
Starlin Castro was the face of the franchise at the time. He had been, around, a while. He was most talented,
prospect.
Other guys are coming up now, chasing him, but he was still the guy. But it's some stupid spring training drill, and he's kind of lollygagging. And David Ross screams in the middle of spring training, you know why you guys always lose? Because you ain't trying hard enough. You're not working hard enough. You want to be a winner, then you better bust your ass on every one of these goddamn drills. This guy's barking.
Everybody's back tightened up real quick when that happened.
Everybody's barking, and he's calling out Starlin Castro. And all of a sudden, guess who's the leader after that day?
David Ross.
The backup catcher.
Yep.
Keep that in mind. David Ross was never, ever on this team the starting catcher. David Ross was the backup catcher, so keep that in mind.
Definitely something to keep in mind. And I was trying to find the video. I did find the picture because I told you I was there. And there is Crawly with Miggy Montero. You can see him at the bottom of the screen, and then, of course, at the top of the screen on the Trinitron. But at the bottom of the screen, you can actually see them with the players in the ring ceremony. Another magical moment at Wrigley Field between that and the night before when they raised the banner in the cold rain against the Dodgers. I was at that game as well. But just a fantastic moment. Really happy for you, Crawly. You deserve it with all the different charitable efforts you put forward and the heart and soul that you put into the Chicago Cubs, you and your dad. It's a cool story, a cool journey for you. And I appreciate you coming on and sharing it because, like I said, I really do identify with you, with your Cubs fanness. There you are when the Chicago Cubs won the World Series. They were
That was the night before the rally.
Okay.
So the night before the rally, I was the first person in line again. I woke up at 3 a.m. and was in front of Grant Park running to the gates. But I went the night before, Danny and I, to grab a beer and get some pictures of the chalk drawings that you remember.
Right.
And that was where that picture was from. And like I said, I cried a lot. I ain't going to pretend I didn't, man. I cried like a baby. It was one of the greatest. It was weird. My dad and I were all the playoff games pretty much throughout the 2000s. I don't remember if it was after. I think it was 2008 when it was 2007 when Arizona clinched on the field. And my dad said, I don't know how much longer I'm going to have to wait around. We had lost a lot of family members that were big Cub fans, and everybody everyone thought they were going to win the World Series. Nobody ever thought that we weren't going to see it, but a lot of people didn't make it. And so, the fact that
I think about that old lady at the 2003 NLCS. She likely did not see her Cubs win a World Series, and that to me, really just speaks to me in my soul because I couldn't imagine going through that. Like even as a Bears fan, I was 2 months old when they won the Super Bowl, and to go the rest of my life without seeing them win a Super Bowl is something I don't even want to fathom personally, and hopefully that doesn't happen. I got time on my side for now, but tell that to the Cubs fans that didn't get to see it.
You never know when your number's called. Your number's called. So I was 8 or 9 years. No, I was 10 years old when the Bears won the Super Bowl. So
dating yourself.
I'm an old man around here on this social media world, but I wore a Pete Rozelle headband like Jim McMahon.
There you go.
I used to hang out at Walter Payton's house.
Really?
Yeah. So I grew up in Arlington Heights, and he used to live right. Think about this: one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player of all time.
Right.
He used to live in a little suburban home, and I used to go to his house when I was a kid. And I didn't realize, you didn't know back then. Like, I knew he was a football player, but I didn't know he was Walter Payton.
Right.
And so I just cared that he had a Miss Pac-Man machine, stand-up Miss Pac-Man machine at his house, and that's all I give a shit about.
You got every story in the book. You got all the life experiences that you could possibly have. There you are, the 2016 when we clinched the division to go to the playoffs, and you guys were the ones giving me the idea, because they were spraying champagne. There you are with the champagne goggles on. So then when they clinched in the NLCS of the 2016 NLCS in Game 6, like we've been talking about, I made my way down by the field, and Pat Tomasulu was doing, and that's when I gave him the little headlock, and I was on WGN yelling "We're family" while I'm headlocking Pat Tomasula, and I was hoping for my champagne. Well, you guys are getting sprayed with champagne. I was at home because I was working that day, and so then for that they didn't spray champagne for the because they told them to stop.
Yeah, 2015 was absolutely.
That was 2015.
2015 was crazy. They were literally on top of the dugout spraying.
Yeah,
champagne,
and then they told them they put the kibosh on them in 2016, like keep it in the club. I was like, come on, people.
And those goggles, if you put that picture back up, those were not my goggles. Those were Chad Noble's goggles. So those were the goggles that he came back out with, and he handed them to me. And then there was a little old lady that I gave them to. I just felt like she earned them, deserved them more than me.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Like that to me, you couldn't rip that kind of thing from my cold dead hands. But you're always giving, thinking about the other fans, even though you have all these great experiences, all this great memorabilia. In that moment, you were still thinking about somebody else, and that's why I really respect the hell out of you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate everything you're doing. It's a blast. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we got to hang out and talk. Again, hopefully we can do it soon. Hopefully we can get you out to Club 400 one of these days.
Yeah.
And, just Cub fans, I will say that I know it looks bleak right now, and I understand why there would be just doubt. But here's what I'm going to tell you. This is not a Cub fan with, trust me, you watch our podcast, we'll tell it like it is. I ain't sugarcoat anything. But what I will tell you is that they have a lot of new guys. I'm excited about the Cubs' new GM. Dan Kantrovitz is in charge of the draft now. There's a lot. This is not 2010, 2011 redo. We're not doing this over again. There's talent down there that is going to bubble up, and it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. I would say that you got guys, some that you know, some names that are familiar. Nelson Velasquez has made a huge impact in the AFL. Everybody knows about Brendan Davis, Ryan Jensen. There's Cole Franklin. There are players upon players. I think that the Cubs had that in obviously 2013, 2014. I think there's a lot more depth, and I think that it's not one-sided. When we talked about 2013, 2014, when you talk about Baez and Bryant and Schwarber and Gleyber Torres and Jorge Soler and Javi Baez and all these guys, what sticks out about all those names?
They're not here.
Not only that, they were all hitters.
Yeah.
There was not one consistent starter that started a whole season in the rotation from the Theo regime. Which was ultimately why they kind of had to shuffle the deck a little bit. Like a guy like Jorge Soler initially didn't have a place on our roster. Now you see him winning a World Series MVP, because they didn't have a spot to put him in the field. Right. And so you have a lot of issues, but I think this time around you have depth, but not only on the hitting side, and there are hitters. You have it on the pitching side. And the problem,
which they've had trouble doing in the past,
developing that. And so I think they saw what the problem was. They've addressed it. I don't think they're going to compete next year. I think they're going to look for guys that are going to have bounce back years. I could see them getting an Eric Hosmer taking on that shitty contract because they got money. Cubs got money. Take that contract. Take a bunch more prospects. Completely.
Keep flipping for prospects.
Keep getting
like the reliever they just picked up from the Reds could potentially be that type of a guy that has a great start to the season. Everybody like, why would we get rid of him? But
Wade Miley,
Wade Miley.
Right,
you flip him for prospects.
There's a lot of things right now, but I got a feeling that the talent in the Cubs system is about 2 years away. So I don't see them throwing huge money until those guys are ready. If you remember how it worked with the Cubs, the core came up, and then they filled it in with Hayward, with Lester, with Zobrist. I don't see them getting a Correa this offseason. And you're going to
put the cart before the horse until it's ready.
So sit here and take a look. They're going to get like a Hosmer who's not that great, but he can play. And I think there's going to be a DH, so you can put Schwindel at a DH because he's not a very good first baseman. And you can sit there then and then get more prospects. And prospects do two things. Not all of them are going to hit. The more quantity you have, the more that one of them is going to hit. Okay? The other thing it's capital. It's trade capital. So, again, we don't win the World Series without Aroldis Chapman. I'll say that to the day I die.
Yep.
Okay, so you lost Gleyber Torres.
You
Well,
lose
guess what?
Game 5 essentially of the World
Right.
Series if you don't have Aroldis.
So Gleyber Torres is you'd love to keep him, but you needed him to be that final piece. So as we sit here now taking a look at it, you want that. And you want to take a look at one of the best teams in baseball? Look at the goddamn Dodgers. And the Dodgers, they just had a stat the other day. Since 2016, the Dodgers have either won or lost to the winner of the World Series. And you take a look at them, the Dodgers flip a lot of players, and they always have more.
Yep.
That's what you need. So what do they do? They flip it and they get Max Scherzer and Trey Turner.
Right.
You think that's not going for it? I mean,
Yeah.
that's what you need. And did they win it all? No. Unfortunately, not unfortunately. I don't give a shit about the Dodgers.
Nobody
They
does,
didn't,
Shane.
but you put everything out there. It wasn't because the management didn't give them what they needed to win.
Right. Well, hey, it's definitely on the horizon, not way out of the eyesight of Cub fans, and they'll certainly, continue to build this, and guys like Patrick Wisdom and Nico Horner, and as you mentioned, maybe Brennan Davis comes up next year. I mean, do you think we'll see him at some point next year? I know he's one of the biggest hyped guys in our minor league system.
They're going to look at his development. I feel bad for these minor leaguers because a lot of them have had kind of weird stunted. When you talk about Miguel Amaya, Braylon Marquez is supposed to be healthy by spring, but again, in the last 2 years, they've really not had an actual
Off-season.
normal development.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So let's
With
see what
everything going
happens
on.
with Brennan. I wouldn't mind.
It seems like every time I turn around, he's smoking the ball out the yard, and they move him up, and he continues to smoke the ball out the yard.
Brennan Davis absolutely has shocked everybody with how quick he has moved through the system. They knew he was good, but he is exceeding what people's expectations were.
Well, as we've got everyone cheering loudly here as things are about to get underway with Miguel Montero signing autographs and hugging everybody and shaking hands and kissing babies. So we're going to cut Crawly loose so he can have his moment with his guy, Miguel Montero. And we appreciate you, Crawly, doing this as we do a little picture action. But we appreciate you sharing all your stories. Really cool. You've had one of the greatest moments with Miguel Montero. And now today you get to have another one, at the Collector's Cave, bringing him in for a signing. And, I also want to shout out your cave, because it's badass. I'm excited for you. Congratulations on it. Nice stonework. I'm a bricklayer, so I appreciate when guys integrate. So you could have asked me, Crawly. I would have laid it
I would
for
have
you.
probably saved some money. But,
You might have saved a few bucks if you'd asked me to come out, but I am always busy doing my thing between sports and laying bricks, so it's hard to book me.
This place, man, the catch and tap and everything is just absolutely
Yep.
a lot of fun. I want to thank the Collector's Cave for bringing these guys out and having a great show.
Yes, sir.
And thank you, sir, for having me
Yeah,
on. I
of course.
appreciate it. And I hope to be on again.
Yeah, no problem, Paul. As everyone knows you, Crawly. How do you pronounce your last name? I didn't want to butcher it early.
Gene, it's okay.
Gene.
Like Blue Jeans.
Blue Jean,
Blue
baby
Jean, baby.
queen, prettiest thing I ever seen. That's Crawly from Crawly's Clubhouse. Make sure you follow his Facebook page on Facebook, Crawly's Clubhouse. Follow him on Twitter at Crawly Cubs, and watch his show with Danny Rocket, the Sun Ranto Show. It's on YouTube. It's on Twitter. It's on Facebook. And then again, they said December 11th, starting at the G-Man Tavern, they're going to be doing a Cubs caroling. So if you want to go around and give out the season's greetings with fellow Cub fans, it's going to be a fun time. It's on my event list on Facebook, and we'll see if I can make it out there between all the different stuff that I've been up to. But that's what we did today. We talked a little Cubs. Baseball, Crawly really filled it up there. Can't thank him enough. There's no way I was going to be able to babble on for an hour about the Chicago Cubs. I'm deep into the basketball scene right now. Between Purdue basketball and then Chicago Bulls basketball. Last night, Purdue wins big, up 30 against Indiana State. Drive home late last night through the snow on the highway, and watch the Bulls tried to fit that. Lost by 30, but without Vucevic, it's going to be an uphill battle until he can get back. But certainly the Bulls have a lot of talent, so not worried about that. It's early in the season. Don't want to stack up the losses. After they built up such good equity here early on. But a tough West Coast trip without one of their top players. So we'll see what happens. Then we got the Bears off this week. They play the Ravens next week. I will be on the road. It'll be the first home game that I missed this year, the Bears versus the Ravens. I will be in Connecticut because I have prioritized Purdue basketball over the Chicago Bears. Don't kill me, but, it's my boys' senior season. So they're taking on North Carolina, legendary program, Michael Jordan's team. Never gotten to see North Carolina play. So excited to be on the road next week in Connecticut, visiting my guy, Phil Atoshin, Draft Dr. Phil, giving me a lot of shit because I was telling him I want to be at this game early. I'm not showing up 5 minutes before tip, Phil. I get to the games early. You don't just show up right when it starts. You got to be there. If you're on time, you're late. If you're early, then you're on time. So I got to really put that into it. But, again, shout out to Crawly for coming on here today. Keep on the eye out for more public signings here for the Collectors Cave. They're doing their thing here at Catch Table and Tap. They've got some more signings here coming up, and I don't want you guys to miss them. If you're a diehard Cub fan, they've got another one coming up here not too long from now. It's going to be, of course, Nico Horner and Patrick Wisdom. That's going to be in December. So I will continue to promote that as the crowd goes wild because we have college football on right now. The big Purdue versus Ohio State game coming up here at like 2:30, I believe. So there's a lot of stuff going on today. A lot of fun action here at Catch Table and Tap in Merrillville, Indiana on US 30. So if you're in the area, this is still going on. I mean, the Miggy Montero signing just started. He'll be here signing until 1:30, and then from 2 to 3:30, one of the all-time great third basemen for the Chicago Cubs, Aramis Ramirez, will be in the house. The only guy that won't be in the house is Aaron. Aaron's in Florida. Don't let his comment in the chat fool you. He's in Florida, always in Florida. Wish he would take us one time, but I want to shout out everybody in the chat for hanging out here today. Ghost Rider, aka Double R, hanging out here. What happened to your arm? What's going on here? We got one surgery. Okay. Got one of my guys with a busted coming in a sling. So, some people were asking, where's Trey? Trey is in Michigan. Will Dutan. Trey is having fun, enjoying the week off. So we decided to come over here and have some fun here at Catch Table and Tap. So that's exactly what we did. Things are starting to pick up here and getting loud and getting rowdy. So I'm going to join them in the action, and I'm going to cut it loose today. This is back-to-back weeks with live shows. Last week we were at Sovereign in Plainfield, a beautiful venue for the Thomas Jones public signing and meet and greet. They really did a great job hosting, and Catch Table and Tap is good friends with the Collectors Cave people, and Jason and Jeremy do a great job hosting. So make sure you make your way up here. Come grab a bite to eat, grab a drink. Come meet me if you're here. We'll have more signings coming up here at this venue here in the future. So don't be a stranger, and we appreciate everybody, again, for all your support. This is what we do. I'm having a lot of fun doing everything we're doing here at Brags in the Stands with the Table and Tap and everybody else in between. So, again, shout out to my guy, Crawly, diehard Chicago Cub fan, and, Miggy Montero's ring bearer. He's probably in the room right now shaking hands and taking pictures with Miggy Montero. All-time great moment for a Chicago Cub fan right there. So that definitely wraps things up for this installment of Brags in the Stands, a Cubs installment. We don't do too many baseball shows, between football and basketball and everything else in the summer. We're really busy between me and Johnny B, so don't get to talk too much baseball too much, but certainly had a lot of fun doing it here today. So that wraps things up. Once again, I am Gregory Braggs Jr. I'm going to end you with KB's final home run as a Chicago Cub. It was I had a few highlights. I couldn't decide which ones I wanted to pull up today. Maybe I should have pulled up the Patrick Wisdom home run, but we'll get that for the next show. So I'm gonna end this here with KB's my favorite Cub of all time, another third baseman for the Chicago Cubs, my favorite Chicago Cub of all time. No, he's not here anymore, but we're going to end it with another Brags in the Stands highlight, and then we're going to call it a day. So thank you to everyone in the chat. Thank you to Crawly. Thank you to the Collector's Cave and Catch Table and Tap. I am Gregory Braggs Jr., and this is Brags in the Stands. Have a good day, ladies and gentlemen.